now. All right, great. All right, thank you everyone for participating in our polls, and thank you for joining us again today. I am now pleased to introduce our presenters for today's webinar. I am joined by Tish Bergantz from Athens State University. And Tish is an assistant professor and instructional designer. She worked on government contracts with the FDA and FEMA before transitioning to education. Her current focus is on preparing teachers for the future by teaching technology and design courses. She provides EdTPA workshops to prepare teachers in the College of Education. Tish is a reviewer for Quality Matters workshops. Also from Athens State University, I have Mark Gale, and he is the Director of Academic Technology Services and an instructional designer. His office is responsible for the university's Quality Matters initiative, which has led to the certification of 22 courses with an additional 9 courses currently in the review process over the past 18 months. He has been teaching instructional design courses since 2012 and has been a Quality Matters certified peer reviewer since 2015. And we also have Adam Fantom on the line with us today from Harford Community College. He is an instructional design technologist. In his role, he is part of a team that supports faculty with instructional design, consultation, and guidance in the development of academically compelling content using current and emerging technology trends. His current focus is on the development of accessible course content and the implementation of immersive learning environments. Adam has been a Quality Matters peer reviewer since 2008 and has participated in nearly 20 Quality Matters course reviews. And finally, we have Regina Roof-Ray, also from Harford Community College. She is an assistant professor of psychology. She utilizes engaging activities and varied instructional methods in both her face-to-face and online classrooms. Regina is the co-chair of the Learning Assessment Committee and a founding organizer of the Mid-Atlantic Undergraduate Psychology Conference. And we are ready to get started. So Mark and Tish from Athens, if you guys want to go ahead and share your screen. Perfect.
Can we see it? Are we running?
Yes, we can. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. From our side of the house, what we're going to talk about are the blend of the two tools, SoftChalk and Quality Matters, that we use. We built it for an education technology course, which was ED305, and so we're going to talk about that building process and the certification. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Quality Matters, it is a peer-reviewed process that they will give you continuous feedback on your courses to enhance the quality. And so we've got some of the feedback that we got from our review in the presentation as well. And then we use this to do SoftChalk in this class, not only from the teaching perspective, but we had students build using SoftChalk as an assignment in there. So Tish is going to talk a little bit more about that as we get in the presentation as well. All right, so we started using SoftChalk in 2012. We have a campus site license at Athens, so that allows both our faculty and our students to use a copy of it. And we use it in multiple courses right now. Mainly it serves as a supplemental material in a lot of courses, but ED305, we wanted to not only allow the students to build using SoftChalk, but we wanted to start going into more of the open education resources. So that's the course where we really used it as almost a textbook rather than just supplemental material to a textbook already there. Now, our Quality Matters side, we became members in 2013. As we were learning how to do it, we decided to make a big push in 2017, which is called our Quality Matters Initiative. And the goal of that is to try and get at least one certified class for each unique faculty member at the school. And so that's what we're still working towards on that. In that time frame, we've gotten 25 certified classes now, and we currently have, like she said earlier, 8 courses that are in review right now. All right, so looking at the ED305 course, we developed it in 2012, and again, SoftChalk was one of our primary drivers in the class. Before we got onto Quality Matters, we went ahead and submitted this to Blackboard, which is our LMS, for one of their exemplary course awards, and in 2013, it won one of the awards for that. So that made it where we wanted to target this as one of our College of Education classes to use in the Quality Matters initiative. So in fall 2017 is when we targeted it. And the way that that initiative works is we have to do an internal review first on the class with 2 designers. And so we ended up having to kind of tweak a little bit, and we'll talk about that in a second. But again, it won a previous award, so we knew the baseline was there. It integrates multiple texts in that class just because of the nature of it, so we wanted to see how the review kind of came back on that. And again, we started looking at more open education resources, and we knew that would be a class that heavily used it, with SoftChalk being that driver. All right, so this class was reviewed in May of last year, so it was still on the 5th rubric of Quality Matters. They're now on the 6th edition rubric, so if you guys are used to that 6th edition, realize that some of these comments are coming from the previous edition of the rubric. When we did our internal review, we were pretty confident that SoftChalk was going to give us an advantage in these 4 areas. We used this quizzing feature to use self-assessments throughout each lesson, so we knew that the standard 3 looks for self-assessments and SoftChalk would be strong there. The instructional materials were mostly going to be driven from SoftChalk, so we knew that would play a key there. On standard 5, we knew that the interactions were more engaging when using SoftChalk. There were a lot of where they had to actually click and do things in the class, so we knew that the learner to content interaction would be strong in that area. And then again, course technologies, it was a technology that a lot of people haven't seen used in courses right now, so we knew that would give us a boost there. One area that we did have concern with was accessibility when we were going through it, because the more interactive you get on lessons, the more things you touch, the harder it is sometimes to make that accessible. So when we did our overall investment or assessment internally, there were a couple of accessibility adjustments we had to do. We went and looked at SoftChalk's documentation on it, and a lot of them, their tools allowed us to go in and put the alt tags on things and put the descriptions on things so that we were able to pretty comfortably feel like we got the accessibility taken care of. Outside of the SoftChalk, we had to make a couple of minor adjustments on objectives and alignments, and some of the rubrics needed some clarification as we were building the course out. But again, we knew we were coming in on a strong base because it had won that Blackboard course award, so we didn't actually have to do too much work on the back end. And I will say that most of the tools in SoftChalk are accessible, and they have a accessibility roadmap that you can see at that link at the bottom. And most of them are there, and if they're not, they're already in the plans to get there. So we felt really good about that because we have a big accessibility push on campus right now. So when we went through the official review, we were certified on our first review. We came back with a 96 out of 99 score. The 2 hits we had, one was accessibility, but it was on our videos, not on anything with SoftChalk. We didn't do the transcriptions, so we had to go back and add some transcriptions to the class. And then the second one was we didn't actually mark a differentiation between our supplemental material and our required material. So again, SoftChalk didn't get any hits on it, which excited us because that accessibility piece had worried us. Also, and we'll show you some exact comments that they gave us back, all those 4 standards that we thought SoftChalk would give us advantages on, the reviewers pointed out that those didn't actually have the advantages we thought, so we were really excited about that. So some of the exact wording from the reviewers. Standard 3.5 talks about those self-checks that we ran the quizzes through, and we knew that that was going to be a strong one. They pointed out that the self-checks through the SoftChalk lessons worked really well. Went backwards. Standard 4.5, variety of instructional materials. Again, a lot of people haven't seen the interactions that are used on SoftChalk, so with the ease that it was to put those things in there, they liked the way that those lessons flowed, they liked the consistency, they liked basically being able to go in and click on everything. And that's also shown in Standard 5.2, where again at the end you can see learner to content, and they specifically mentioned the SoftChalk lessons was something beyond what they've seen in the past when just having a lot of the lectures and textual material to work with. And then Standard 6.2 was active learning, and I think they said it the best, where basically the selected tools made an immersive learning experience for the students. And so for the advantages that we got out of building it, it just knocked that review out of the water for us. So the impressions we had so far when building this class with SoftChalk, the faculty loved the flexibility of being able to develop in it because they could actually make their own materials. It's basically, instead of having to use a textbook to drive your class, they got to use what they wanted to use, building it in SoftChalk. And the ease of using it, the time that it took, them being able to pick their own materials overweighed all that stuff easily. Students enjoyed the interactivity in the lessons. Also using the OERs, we had a cost advantage, and Tish will talk a little bit more about that in a second. And then they enjoyed the hands-on practical application. Again, one of the goals of this class was to make sure that they could use a tool like SoftChalk out in the real world. And then again, as you saw, the reviewers said that the consistency and the engagement that the tool gave us in the class really kind of had it stand out from others. So I'm going to let Tish run into the rest of how ED 305 was actually developed.
One of the things that the students mentioned first off was the reduced cost of the textbooks. They didn't have to pay for another text, and they actually, we were able, when we were creating these, to update quickly the resources that would go out, or even you didn't have to wait on a book update, you were able to keep current. And the students were able to use SoftChalk after they graduated actually in their classes. So this was a really good benefit for everyone. We went ahead and we created SoftChalk lessons to use instead of the textbook, and we sort of kept this format throughout. We used open educational resources to come together and basically add all of the materials. And then in these lessons, we demonstrated what they had available for tools. We added different self-assessments, we added interactive activities, text poppers, hotspots, different tools just so they could see what was available, and then they could sort of replicate or pick and choose what they wanted when it was time for them to go ahead and add into their lesson. And it also had this consistent feel so that when they were navigating, they knew exactly what was expected, and at the end of every lesson, pretty much there was a self-assessment. With the with this one, everyone had a header at the top so that they could navigate, and this was great that they also used different kinds of headings so that JAWS readers or any type of accessibility could be used, and basically you had this consistent feel throughout the course, again ending with some sort of self-assessment. This was one of the lessons that we created. They were going to create a teacher website, and we had different outlets that they could go to. We had different resources, and we also had key questions. So this was pretty much the format for all of the lessons, and then we also embedded different kinds of activities. For instance, when we talked about the Prezi, we went ahead and we added a video. We were not only adding different elements, but we were appealing to different learners. This would appeal more to a visual learner, and we discussed that with the teachers as they were going to be teaching in the field. And so we tried to add different activities. Not only did we have links and videos, but we had actual engagement activities as well. One of the other ones that we added was this interactive labeling. This dealt with the information on digital citizenship, but it could be used in anything from an English lesson to a lesson in history. So we tried to discuss that there were different types of elements that would be better suited for certain types of subjects than others. We also added a timeline so that they could see what a timeline was like. This could be used in history, or it could be used in something like science, that they could add sort of how things grow and change. Then we also had them try different activities. This one was an overlaying fact. This one was about John Quincy Adams. But the main thing I want to show you on this is that all of these have these little keyholes on the bottom here. And when you're looking at that, this basically is for ADA compliance so that it can be used for a JAWS reader or some other type of accessibility. Then we also talked about hotspots. These could be used for identifying items, not only for number line, but if you look here on the axis, there is a hotspot, so the students could be asked to identify the X and Y axis for math or a different subject. Then it became time for the students to actually create examples. So we had given them a lot of different lessons. They had gone to about the third week in class, and now it was their turn to go ahead and use SoftChalk. And when they did this, they were also told to be ADA compliant. So the student did add this, and we said, while that's great that they put that there was a clip art representing 9 elements of digital citizenship, that they needed to be a bit more specific, and we discussed how they could be more specific for a JAWS reader. We also talked about images. and we said that they should enhance the lesson instead of deter from it. So this was a good example of digital commerce and how this sort of went along with that, but it wasn't overwhelming. The students also added different kinds of assessments. This one was a true false, and so we talked about chunking. So give a little bit of a little bit of a lesson, and then give a self-assessment just to see where the students are and see if they could formulate their opinions at that time. This was another type, and with this embedded quiz question, it was a drop down, so they were able to select from that. The other ones before were true and false, so we just wanted them to see that there were different styles to appeal to different learners. Again, an essay question, something like this might be better for a short essay in history or English, and we were trying to show them that there were different kinds that appealed to different subjects. Then they also created a crossword puzzle, and one of the nice things about the crossword puzzle, again, is that it is accessible, and if you click on that key, here's actually what you see when you click the page. It shows that it gives the clue, it tells you how many letters are there, and then it gives the actual clue so that you can answer it. They also had an interactive pie chart where you could click on it, and this one dealt again with social media and digital communication. So each little pie chart gave a different area. This one again talked about Snapchat and Facebook Messenger in this area, and then the different ones gave different areas. And overall, the students really said that they enjoyed the cost advantage. That was one of their biggest drawback, or one of their biggest positives from taking the course, was that they didn't have to buy another textbook. However, they did have the fee associated with the SoftChalk license embedded in their course. They also liked the fact that it was a low learning curve and that it was practical and it was hands-on. They were able to go ahead and engage in this, and they appreciated the fact that they could still use it in the field. We had a student who worked at a preschool, and after she had created the lesson, she showed me one that she created for the preschool, and it was basically showing the students and parents how to dial 911. So she created a small mock-up where the students could actually click on the numbers for 911. So we've had some really good comments and feedback about using SoftChalk and the learning curve not being too steep for it. Thank you.
All right, and so that kind of clears up our part of the presentation. If there's any questions.
Yes, a few questions have come in. John was wondering, how much time did you spend on training for the students to use SoftChalk?
We basically gave them, in the third week of course, they went ahead and they began it. We had talked before that they had seen how it was used in the modules that they were actually using, and we went over one training session. If they had any questions, they could come before or after class and ask.
Perfect. Another question was asked, how long did it take to create the course?
That one's a little bit trickier because since they were using OER and building some of the content themselves, the content piece took a while to build. But once we gathered the content up, we ended up getting it probably into the course using the SoftChalk stuff in about a week and a half to 2 weeks. But there was like about probably a month ahead of time where they actually were gathering that material up to put into the tool. And I think it's probably, I think it was a 10 or 12 module course. So 12 of those SoftChalk lessons, give or take.
Okay. And then a follow-up question to the training question. So was each student responsible, they were responsible to learn small pieces, but did not have to learn all of the tools?
The topic that they were given was digital citizenship, and they were told to choose 6 activities, and they had to create at least 14 or 13 pages, and the 14th page was a works cited, and then they had to create, embed, add a widget, So there were quite a few components that they had to add in there. They might not have had to have like a long lesson, like some of the ones that you saw where they had just a short blip and then they had a quick little self-assessment. So maybe more like that, but they were required to have at least probably about majority of the tools that were offered.
And the ones that they didn't, it was stuff like we had them embed a quiz, but they could choose which one of those types of quizzes, multiple choice, drop down, essay, stuff like that. So.
Great, thank you. Another question. So there was no textbook at all used in this course. Everything was reproduced using SoftChalk and OERs, correct? Right. Okay, great. And someone asked if you could share an example of how SoftChalk helped to enhance learner-learner interaction.
Well, one of the pieces, SoftChalk directly did not do it, but on that assignment where they had to develop their own SoftChalks, they ended up having to kind of share back and forth and do some peer reviewing on it. So they were kind of picking each other's lessons apart to make them better. But we did not actually do like a discussion or something directly embedded into SoftChalk.
Okay, got it. And Greg was asking, SoftChalk and Blackboard each have their own navigation. Does this cause problems for you all with consistency, or do the courses use parts of both navigation systems?
We use the LTI so that it is in there, and then they click on the lesson. It's actually called lesson in the Blackboard container, and it opens up seamlessly. And then when we need to update it, we actually go into the SoftChalk lesson, update it, and then we push it back through to Blackboard.
Perfect. And then a couple people were asking, is this a junior level class or a 300 level course?
It is. We actually are unique. Our school only has junior and senior levels. So this one was a junior entry level one.
Okay. And then let's see. Sorry, we just got a few that came in, so I'm trying to.
No problem.
Okay, this might help with the textbooks and OER questions that are coming in. How would SoftChalk work with a national certification text that is copyrighted? I didn't know with the OERs and Creative Commons if you all had any experience with that.
We have some, and we've used a lot of Merlot. We used a lot of just the Creative Commons and the even open stacks. We use some materials from those, but those are the copyright license that we were using basically said as long as we used it for instructional purposes and not to reproduce, we were okay with it.
Yeah, those are almost two separate issues where if you can go through and get the copyrights as you need to, SoftChalk is just a tool that will allow you to kind of display it out in a different format than just sticking it in the LMS.
Perfect. Were the students completing their assignments out of class?
Yes. Yeah. We would basically go over the lesson. We would work with it. We spent probably about half the class period making sure that they had installed it correctly and that they could at least open it up and save it to the cloud. And then we would go around, we would teach a tool, and then we would go around, let them try that tool and make sure that they were sort of okay. And then we finished the lesson, and then they finished everything outside of class.
And I'll say Tish teaches the face-to-face version. This is also offered straight online. So they would have inherently had to have done it outside of class at that point. And it probably took us about 1, maybe 2 semesters to really fine-tune the instructions to help get them guided on that. So
we do offer virtual sessions as well, which is really helpful because you can sort of show how it's done and they get a better feel instead of just reading directions.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, those are all the questions that have come in. So thank you both for your presentation. And now if Adam and Regina want to go ahead and take over the screen, we can continue.
Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Fantom. I'm an instructional design technologist technologist here at Harford Community College. My main focus from an instructional design perspective is I'm going to show you today how SoftChalk helps us to meet some of our main objectives on our campus. Same as I'm sure it is at your institutions, there's a big push for accessibility. Content has to be accessible to students, as well as trying to find OER materials and trying to find content of different modes of technology to interact within the classroom. I'm going to show you how to do that and how that correlates to some QM standards.
And I'm Regina Ruffray. My course, Psychology 101, recently went through Quality Matters, and SoftChalk was part of that course, which is what brings me here today. I am by no means an expert in any of this technological stuff, including SoftChalk, so that probably makes it apparent how easy this is to use and how effective it can be in helping meet QM standards.
Just in case some of you aren't aware what SoftChalk is, it's a program that makes it very easy for instructional designers, especially faculty, to develop interactive lessons with their LMS. We use Blackboard at our institution. We've been using SoftChalk now for about 10 years, but it's actually gotten more popular the last 2 or 3 years. Again, because it's been a big push from our administration to make sure our content is ADA accessible, and there has been increased demand from our students to use more open resources and materials. The 3 main things I want to focus on my presentation today, how SoftChalk helps us with ADA accessibility. First thing to do is talk about images, then I'll be talking about videos, and lastly, headings. When you go into SoftChalk and you're actually going to implement or insert an image into a lesson, so I was going to insert this image right here. If I was just going to click OK about giving it an alternative text, you get this window right here. You need to enter an alternative text for the image. That helps to make sure that if students are using a screen reader and the screen reader comes upon the image, it can read out the description to the students. Our faculty actually love the fact that it forces accessibility on them, because many of them didn't realize they needed to do alternative text or images. This makes it very easy for them to do so. And next one comes to videos and audio files. Faculty love to use this, especially if you're using embedding YouTube videos. I'll talk about this in a little bit. When you're going to obtain content from SoftChalk, you can actually find Creative Commons licensed YouTube videos. It makes it very easy to make sure that they're closed captioned, as well as insert a file link so that you can include a transcription file. So if we were to insert a video image right here, just like image, you put it in description right here. You can insert the link. SoftChalk also gives you the ability to embed the image directly also within a SoftChalk lesson. And talking about headings, this is what you see right here. This is the toolbar for SoftChalk. You notice it looks very similar to Microsoft Word. They do that on purpose. Again, so when a faculty member is going through and creating their lessons within SoftChalk, they make different headings. All they got to do is highlight the text, select heading 1, or if they design a custom theme, they can do the heading 1 designer option. And then as they write out their text, do headings 1, 2, and 3. The advantage of that being, again, it helps make your content ADA accessible. Having different headings makes it easier for students to use screen readers to go ahead and access and use a SoftChalk lesson. SoftChalk does also provide an accessibility PDF file. It talks about how they make lessons ADA accessible, some of the things that they've accomplished, some of the things that they're still working on. I found this link right there on their website. Next thing I'd like to talk about is specific UM standards that address accessibility. You get your general standard 8, and talking about accessibility and usability. Make sure it, of course, follows universal designs for learning, has a commitment to accessibility, and that all different types of learners can use and access the course content activities. Again, SoftChalk makes it super, super easy to do so. Some of the 4 specific standards I have found when I'm going through my QM reviews that apply to accessibility are these 4 right here. You have standard 8.1. Using the headings helps make course navigating through lesson much easier to use. Course design, again, it makes your content readable. It also ties into standard 8.3. Having accessible text and images and files. We do things like alternative text, or you have transcription files or closed captioning for videos. It allows all types of learners to access and learn, as well as enhance their learning outcomes. And the last part is, you're providing alternative means of media that, again, meet the diverse needs of the learners. The second thing I like to talk about that we really like using our campus as it relates to SoftChalk is we are having more of a push for open content or obtaining OER materials. A big thing that our faculty love at our institution is the media search feature. If you open up a SoftChalk lesson, hit F8, or you go to Tools, Media Library, this is what you get right here. So you can do a simple keyword search like you can within Google. You can search different types of repositories. These are some repositories you have right here. So you do have the option of searching through OpenStax. Sorry about that. Again, most of the content that is available with SoftChalk Cloud and the media search is open accessible. It is free materials. These are just some of the things you have here. SoftChalk does provide a SoftChalk share. So what that is faculty at other institutions, your institutions, if you want to share your lesson out to other faculty members, other institutions, they can freely use your content. They can go ahead and do so. There are some other options you can. There is Wikipedia, there is YouTube. We can use Flickr to search for images that are open or Creative Commons licensed. Some of the repositories within the media search are fee-based services. Not every single item in the repository is free to use. Two main examples, the Encyclopedia Britannica and Telecom. But some of the content that faculty like to use, it makes it very easy to find links to web page, videos, images, and text files, PDF files. And again, we're using the course content, using the media search library. SoftChalk gives you access to several different types of repositories. As you can see, this is not all of them right here, but this is most of them. Faculty seem to love to use the SoftChalk share, OpenStax, Flickr, Getty Images also seems to be a popular one that our faculty also like to use as well. And again, why is it important to learn that we use the content feature or the media library or media search within Quality Matters or within SoftChalk? It helps us meet QM standards. Some of the QM standards, particularly Standard 6, talks about having course technologies that support students' learners' achievements and can meet the course objectives or competencies. So again, if you're using content, you're using tools that help. This stuff is correlated to your lessons that you use within your course or within your SoftChalk lesson that helps your students meet the learning objectives. You use different types of technologies and YouTube videos, images, you use PDF files. All these different types of course tools encourage your student to learn, encourages active learning. And again, you're also using a variety of technology within the course, which correlates to QM standard 6.3.
Okay, so in case it isn't obvious, Adam created this SoftChalk presentation that you're seeing as we speak, which just really helps show the great organizational capacities of SoftChalk. Before developing my course several years ago, I looked at QM standards to help guide the development process, and SoftChalk seemed to lend itself quite nicely to the successful attainment of several of the Quality Matters standards, as you've seen. So I used SoftChalk for my lesson content. When there were QM standard updates, SoftChalk seemed to parallel with updates and features of its own. Because it helps create organized materials through a series of pages for each subtopic, the ability to have the content within the viewing frame aligns with both accessibility and science of learning best practices. Students aren't overwhelmed by too much information presented at once and can better retain information that's presented in smaller chunks. This also helped me pass my QM standards by allowing for a variety of easily displayed instructional methods and allowing the students to access these instructional methods through ease without having to go through a variety of Blackboard pages. All instructional material can be in one place, and be part of the natural flow of the lesson, with students easily accessing the components with a click right there where they are in the lesson. In addition to video, web links, and illustrations, the SoftChalk quizzing feature allows students to check their understanding of material. The quiz opportunities are integrated into the lessons, and SoftChalk, as Adam demonstrated, makes accessibility foolproof. Because of all this, SoftChalk allows for material to be presented in a way that clearly illustrates links or relationships to learning objectives in a clean, organized presentation. What I liked about using SoftChalk in the Quality Matters process really is a reflection of what I just mentioned. The SoftChalk lecture was easily embedded in Blackboard with a hyperlink, and it was easy to edit both on and offline. For example, depending on my technology access, I could always work on my course, on my learning materials or course content. For example, my parents live in rural Pennsylvania, and when I would be visiting them for the weekends, they have no internet access. However, I could write lectures on my laptop in Word and then later copy them into SoftChalk. When I was finished, all I needed to do was use SoftChalk features to fancy it up, so to speak, and then put the hyperlink in Blackboard. You can easily add information suggested by QM standards. For example, I added a more clear outline of how lesson objectives mapped to course objectives. And you can also easily edit errors or provide updates in the material. You can copy and paste existing documents into SoftChalk and energize them. This has been demonstrated through the features that both Adam and the other speakers presented. And probably the biggest contributions of SoftChalk in terms of my QM process was the one-stop access aspect of SoftChalk. The allowing for organization, the crisp, effective use of white space, for example. Adam presented an example of how easy it is to follow the step-by-step directions, and not being a technology person, I very much appreciate that. One of my favorite features is that it allows for easy inclusion of formative assessment through quizzing with several quizzing options. I prefer the multiple choice, as that's one of the formats that my students will see as part of their summative assessment when we test. But I also like the matching, as I can quiz on a lot of material with just one pop-up quiz. Additionally, one of the things the students really like is the easy printing in an organized manner. In fact, this is often a comment on student evaluation at the end of the course, how much they enjoyed the printability of the SoftChalk lectures. And finally, what I like about using SoftChalk in the QM process, what is allowed was that it allowed for links and relationships to be easily established. Because they were integrated into the information and not separated by tabs or pages, this was a very smooth process. The following 5 SoftChalk pages are samples from my QM review that specifically referenced my SoftChalk lessons. From Standard 4.1, which deals with instructional materials contributing to the achievement of the stated course and modular or unit learning objectives or competencies. You can see in bold that my reviewers felt the lessons were developed in a manner that helps students to achieve learning objectives. The lessons were colorful, interactive, had videos and self-quizzes, which created a variety of learning. And the third reviewer comment was that the SoftChalk lessons specifically mentioned definitely relate to the learning objectives. So essentially, the instructional materials created in SoftChalk were interactive, which easily occurred through the SoftChalk features. This helped the students achieve their learning objectives. Standard 4.2 looks at both the purpose of instructional materials and how the materials are to be used for learning activities that are clearly explained. Again, a specific mention from a reviewer was that the instructional material used in the form of lessons are divided into various categories within your SoftChalk lesson. This categorical approach allows for the student to study small portions or topics which are more manageable when retaining information that's learned. And we see this over and over again in the science of learning. In standard 4.5, we are looking at using a variety of instructional methods, presenting a variety of relevant instructional methods and materials that could include textbook, publications, etc. Again, a reviewer comment that I really think speaks for itself and the purpose of this webinar. It is appropriate to use an instructional tool such as SoftChalk to consolidate most or all of your instructional information. The lecture materials, videos, links to experiments, internet articles, and other factors of my course were consolidated in one area for easy navigation and preventing excessive searching on the parts of the students. Standard 5.2 looks at learning activities, and it requires that learning activities in a QM course provide opportunities for interaction that support active learning. Again, reviewer comments, there are a variety of opportunities for students to learn in an interactive manner and to become engaged with the content of the course. Students cannot remain passive. They engage with the material through the text and the SoftChalk lessons, which, as we've established, are quite interactive. Finally, standard 6.1 is another example. This one looks at support for learning objectives of the course. And one reviewer comment was that all of the tools, including SoftChalk, clearly relate to the course's objectives. So SoftChalk, I would say, not only supports, but can honestly help guide the student in meeting their course objectives. Adam, back to you.
Okay, and that's our presentation, everybody.
Great. Thank you. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and type those in now. One that did come in specifically for, I believe, you, Regina, when you were discussing working on the content in Pennsylvania where the internet was a little bit iffy. Someone was asking, was the content also easy to view and interact with on a tablet or mobile device, or did you have experience with that?
So I don't use a mobile device. I have used a tablet and find that to work just fine. No issues there. Yeah. Again, I've not tried a mobile device, but no issues with the tablet. That seems to work well.
And I will say from the SoftChalk end, creating content on a mobile device is not currently supported, but viewing content for, from a student perspective or something like that is supported. So if that helps answer the question as well. And let me see. We still have a few questions that are coming in. This one might be for Jim or anyone really. Someone said standard 5.2, we saw that there was a COI with teacher learner and learner content, but we did not see the learner examples. Are there examples higher on the SAMR chart that can be shared? I don't know if anyone wants to take that one.
This is Joe. I'm not sure what COI and SAMR mean, but I can find those answers and include them later.
Okay. And let's see. Oh, it says community of inquiry theory.
I'm gonna have to find answers for that. I don't have that.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
No worries. let's see, can students use the interactive quizzing while viewing on their mobile phone? If any, I don't know if any of you all students have mentioned anything specific. I can answer that from the SoftChalk side, but didn't know if you had specific feedback from students regarding that you wanted to share.
I can say that I have not had any students complain, and students do like to complain. So I've not had anyone say they couldn't.
Yep. And all of our quizzes and activities are to certain levels mobile friendly. All of them are in process of being improved in that aspect. And let me see, no other specific questions have come in as of right now. In general, I just want to make sure everyone knows again, this webinar is being recorded, and we'll be sharing a link via an email from Zoom sometime tomorrow. So you all should be getting that. And let me see. And looks like that is all of the questions. Someone said, using online exams on Blackboard with standard 8 accessibility, do we recommend more time for those students? Oh no. That might have just been a comment more than a question. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I think time is always one ability you can do.
Yep. All right. Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and take the screen back now and show you all some contact information in case any more questions come to mind after we've wrapped up. So thank you so much to Tish, Mark, Adam, and Regina for presenting this afternoon. We all really appreciate it. I think we've had a lot of great information shared. If anyone on the line has any additional questions for our presenters, you can email them directly at the addresses listed on your screen. For more information about SoftChalk, you can visit our website, softchalk.com, or you can email us at learnmore@softchalk.com. And for more information about Quality Matters, you can visit their website, qualitymatters.org, or email them at info@qualitymatters.org. Thank you so much, everyone, again for joining us, and we hope you have a great rest of the day.